We're talking about a Labour councillor who's now resigned. Some pretty horrendous views were made on Twitter by this former councillor. But the views were made before she was a councillor, when she was a little bit young and a little bit stupid. Have you got any sympathy?
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Ah, dear. Right, OK. Let's get down to this top story this morning. A Labour councillor who tweeted that Hitler was the greatest man in history has resigned from Luton Borough Council. Now, that was just one. I'm going to cross to Ben now and get the rest of these, because we spoke about these earlier. If you've just tuned in, that there are so many more tweets that were public that have now been discovered for the very first time. Ben, just give us a few more. What exactly was said on Twitter?
Yeah, so I'll just run through the dates as well. So October 2011, this tweet says, Adolf Hitler equals greatest man in history. October 2012, Ed Miliband is Jewish. He will never become Prime Minister of Britain. This one in 2013, February 2013, Iran are going to have their own nuclear weapon and are going to wipe Israel off the map. They're just a selection of the tweets.
So this is Aisha Girl Jabuz, and she made these comments on Twitter. She was saying yesterday that it could have been her sister who had access to her Twitter account. I don't believe that for one moment, but we've got to be clear right now when we say these tweets were made before she was a local councillor.
That's right.
She's now resigned. The Director of Communications, the campaign Against Antisemitism, is Jonathan Sacerdotti. And Jonathan joins me live right now. Jonathan, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Welcome to the programme. What's your views on the fact that she has now told us exclusively that she is resigning, she's standing down for comments that were made before she was a councillor? What's your view on that?
Well, certainly her resignation is interesting, and it seems the appropriate thing to do. To have somebody that is an admirer of Adolf Hitler, who is, let's not forget, responsible for the death of 6 million Jews during the Holocaust, taking public office like that is totally inappropriate. Now, obviously, this is part of a much bigger problem, which is that of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Barely a day goes by at the moment where we don't see a story of one or another Labour official, party member, councillor, MP in the newspapers because of some sort of anti-Semitic statement they made. Whether it was Gerald Kaufman MP, who said that Jewish money and Jewish donations dictate government policy on Israel, and said that he believed that the Conservative government was allowing Jews in Israel to kill Arabs simply because they looked Arab, or whether it's this woman in Luton Council saying that she thought Hitler was the greatest man in history and would have liked to meet Hitler. These are deeply disturbing views for Jewish people to hear, but also for all Great Britons to hear, because nobody in this country should be expressing these sorts of vile anti-Semitic opinions.
So you actually, your organisation, found these tweets. Do you just go through people's Twitter looking for stuff like this then?
We're constantly on the lookout for different manifestations of anti-Semitism. As a charity, our job is to monitor and make people aware of the growing problem of anti-Semitism in Great Britain and beyond. And by bringing that to people's awareness, we want them to realise that this is a very serious problem for the whole of Great Britain, not just for Jewish people. Because what tends to happen is when there is prejudice and discrimination against Jewish people, it usually comes before much worse, and that's something that will affect everybody. So, for two reasons. One, because we should all be protecting minorities around us and making sure that they don't feel threatened and endangered. But two, because it usually is a herald for something far worse that's coming later on that could affect everybody's lives, even if they didn't feel that this particular anti-Semitism affected them.
Jonathan,
these example.
Yeah, I was going to say these views are clearly outrageous. That they are clearly vile. But these views were made when she was, 16, 17, 18 years old. Is that not just a kid saying something stupid?
It may well be a kid saying something stupid, but this particular kid, within a couple of years, has become a councillor for the Labour Party in Luton Council. So I think it's extremely important to look at the things that she said throughout her life. And by blaming her sister, as she did for some of these tweets, something you said you don't believe, and
I don't believe that, no.
Will decide themselves. Listeners will decide themselves whether they believe that. If one doesn't believe it, it means they think she's also a liar, and that's something that's happening right now, not when she was younger. And even so, I ask you, people at home sitting listening to this at the moment, do their 16-year-old children want to meet Hitler? Do their 16-year-old children think that Hitler is the greatest man in history? Do their 16-year-old children wish that Iran would develop a nuclear bomb so that it could kill 6 million more Jews in Israel?
It could have been taken out of context, of course. That was then.
What context could that possibly exist in?
It might just be somebody.
If I told you there was a context in which you could wish death to 6 million of a particular race or religion, could you explain what context would make that acceptable?
Okay. Let me come back at you when you were 16. So when you were 16, you never said anything outrageous and stupid at all. You were a good little boy at 16 years old, the perfect pupil, were you?
I don't believe at the age of 16 I ever incited violence or genocide against any particular religious or racial group.
But you probably did other things, looking back now, which to a lot of other people could be deemed as outrageous. Because at 16 years old, we say stupid things. It's all part of the growing up process.
We're not really here to discuss my adolescence, so I'd be perfectly
But do you not agree,
happy
though?
to do so if you
Do you
think
not
that would
agree?
be helpful. No, I don't agree. And I think that when one becomes a councillor for a local area, and when one is an elected official for a Labour Party, for example, how on earth could you look at your Twitter account, even if you felt that you'd made errors in your past? And I maintain that it's not excusable to say that somebody was 16 and therefore their calls for disgusting anti-Semitism are
They're horrible views,
but if you look at those views, she left them sitting on her Twitter account, whether she believes she made them or not, for years since she's become elected. This shows a deeper problem within the Labour Party and within this young woman's mind. Neither of these people look back over the things that she'd left sitting there publicly, published for the whole world to see, under her name. They have been sitting there until we drew them to her attention, which again doesn't suggest to me that this is somebody that thinks those views were wrong, or that somebody has looked at those views and thought they shouldn't be there.
She has come out. She said that she is incredibly sorry for those views. Is an apology not enough?
Well, it's always interesting to see how people's actions reflect their apologies. So we'll be watching, of course, to see whether over coming weeks, months and years, over coming weeks, months and years, she makes efforts as somebody who's obviously interested in politics and public office to find out more about the Holocaust. Maybe she'll be undergoing some sort of education so that she understands what she was making light of. Maybe she'll be making outreach to the Jewish community. Maybe she'll be trying very desperately to undo the damage that she's done to the Jewish community through making them feel further unsafe in this country. Those are all things, of course, which could show a dedication to community cohesion, which she insists that she has. And further afield, the Labour Party itself could be doing the same. It could be stamping down on anti-Semitism within its ranks from the top right to the bottom. It could be going through these investigations to try to find anti-Semites within its ranks, rather than leaving it to the press and to charities to notice these people, and for distressed Jewish people to have to see them and bring it to their attention. If the Labour Party was actually serious about dealing with the anti-Semitism problem that it now clearly has, it would be looking to these sorts of views, these sorts of people within its ranks, and dealing with them firmly and preemptively before it's brought to them. Instead, they have these suspensions, these deep concerns that they express, and yet nothing seems to happen that reassures Jewish people that they're taking the problem seriously.
Jonathan, we've got a statement. I'm just going to cross live now to Ben, who's producing the programme this morning. We'll get your reaction off the back of this. The statement, Ben, who's it from? What's it saying?
Yeah, so this is from the councillor in question. So this is Ayşegül Gürbüz. She says, before I was an elected councillor, a number of comments were made on my Twitter account that were ill-judged and offensive, regardless of their context. At the time, I was just 16 or 17. Multiple people had access to my account, and the tweets made do not reflect what I believe, but I take full responsibility for what was spoken in my name. I am horrified to read back what was written, and I apologise for them in their entirety. As such, I believe it is the right thing to acknowledge the pain I have caused and have resigned from Luton Borough Council as an elected representative. I will not be issuing any further statements, but to all those who campaigned with or voted for me, I apologise, letting you and the Labour Party down.
Jonathan, two final questions in one here. What's your reaction to that statement, and are you happy that she has resigned?
I welcome that statement and her resignation. And I can tell you that anti-Semites listening to this would also know that there are consequences for expressing their views and inciting hatred against Jewish people. This is a prime example of what happens if you take these views against Jewish people and try to spread them publicly to the detriment of the Jewish community.
Thanks for joining us live. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, we'll take your views between now and 9. Ben, we've got some texts that are coming in. Loads and loads are coming in. So let's try and do some of these now. What do people say?
Yeah, a lot of reaction on this. I'll start with Mark in Dunstable. He says, Justin, I'm someone with a Jewish heritage, although I do not practice any religion. However, I did lose family in Germany during the Holocaust. I found her comments truly awful, even as a 16-year-old, says Mark.
I just think, for me personally, it's just a teenager being thick. I don't think she meant those comments. I think it's just somebody being a little bit stupid, and ultimately she's now paying the price. What else?
Yeah, it would be hard to believe someone actually believed these
Exactly,
views.
yeah.
So Jack in Luton says, you keep saying the councillor made the statements when she was 16. She was not. The first one was made when she was 16, but further ones were made over 2 years.
Okay, between 16 and 18 then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
Helen in Milton Keynes says, former councillor seeking sympathy for hate-filled comments made when I was younger, but I've not heard any retraction or statement from her that her opinions have changed. So no sympathy from me. I think she does say that she's horrified by the comments in her statement. So Helen has no sympathy there. And this person with no name says, if you use Twitter to make personal statements, the clue is in the first 4 letters. I think insinuating that you're a twit.
Thank you. 0345...